Hey guys, this is Monica at Academic Phoenix Plus, and today we're going to learn how to UV map this crate. So as you can see, the only thing I did was duplicate this cube and then actually stretched it out so that it will be a nice long crate and the UVs don't match. Let's go to Windows UV Texture Editor and take a look. As you can see, the 0 to 1 space is here, 0, 1. The UVs are actually the same as the cube. And that's part of the issue. The issue is that this face should be the same size as here, which it is. However, this face here is not the same size. So now we have to UV map. I'm going to be showing you one technique, which is called planar mapping, but there's lots of techniques when it comes to UV mapping. All right, so the first thing we need to do is I like to rotate this so that it is actually facing the X, Y, Z coordinates. I'm gonna grab these guys and just hide them so they get in the way. And let's go to Create UVs, Planar Mapping, Options. Again, I highly recommend that you take a look at my previous tutorial about different type of methods you can actually unwrap your model. So we have Planar Mapping, Cylindrical, Spherical, Automatic, Create UVs based on camera. We're going to be using Planar Mapping because these guys are planes. So we're under Create UVs, Planar Mapping Options. The question is which coordinate system we want to use. And if you're not sure which way to UV map, just take a look at the coordinate system at the bottom left and you can see that Z is facing that direction. We're going to grab a face. So we're going to grab Z. Make sure that your keep image width height ratio is on and apply. It is going to look like this. And I know it's a little bit distracting, so I'm going to assign a different texture in a second, but right now I'm just going to grab this and move it to the side. I'm going to go ahead and go to object mode, and I'm going to assign a new material. I'm going to assign a new Lambert, nice and neutral. I also want to show you to assign actually some sort of texture so we can see how it's actually stretched out, and that's where the grid comes in. I've already found one. It's called the UV checker, and you can see it's a little crazy, but it shows you a gradient, it shows you cubes and also numbers. This is going to be very helpful. This is what it looks like so far, and one side is planar map, which is exactly what we want. If these squares and numbers are not warped, that means that when we create a texture on top of that, the texture is not going to get warped. So you can see on the sides that this is definitely warped. The 2 does not actually look like that, or neither does the square. So that means that when we assign a texture to this UV map, it's going to be stretched. So, and that gives us inaccurate information. So that's why we UV map. So already UV map one side. I'm gonna grab the other face, grab this one and do the same thing, create UVs, planar mapping options. This is Z again, apply. I know the numbers are going backwards, but I'll take care of that in a second. By the way, this is a little distracting, so I'm gonna go ahead and you can do two things. You can either turn it off up here, or you can make it grayscale and then you can see the UVs. I'm going to turn it off for now. All right, let's go ahead and do the other ones. I can actually do 2 faces at a time. You're not limited. This time we are facing positive X, so go ahead and hit X and apply. Okay, so I can move these to the side, but these are actually on top of one another. So what I'm going to do is grab one UV, so right click UV, just click on one, control right click to shell, and then move it to the side. And now you can see I have 4 UV maps. The top and the bottom are looking good, so I'm going to leave them as is. Okay, the next part is actually sewing it together. We're trying to avoid seams. Now this is a lot of seams. You really don't want to leave them separated in pieces. You actually want to try to avoid having so many loose edges. The less edges you have, the less seams you have to paint over, and the less things you have to worry about. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit more efficient by sewing things. And there's a couple of ways we can do this. I personally like to grab an edge, grab this one, and then I can click move and sew. But you can see that things didn't work out. It looks like there's only one, but I know that there's 2 on top of one another. And the reason why is because there's some UVs that are flipped. So to visually see this, we're going to click on here, and you can see that we have some red ones and blue ones. The red ones are the ones that are facing the wrong way. These are the numbers, like the ones that are backwards, right? So if I grab this face, you can see that I selected that one, and the numbers, it's literally using colors to let me know, hey, this is backwards, your textures are going to be backwards. So go ahead and select a UV. So right click UV. You can either click and drag or just select one, control right click to shell, and then we're just going to flip it. You can just click this one right here, bloop, and it flips. Do the same thing here, control right click to shell, use this button and it flips. Perfect. Everything is nice and purple. Right? Click on that edge, move and so. Click on this edge, move and so. Click on that edge, move and so, and voila. Now it's time to actually move them to the 0 to 1 space. I'm going to grab these UVs. Notice that I'm not in UVs, I'm in edge. Control right click to shell. Move this to the side. Control right click to shell. And bring them into the 0 to 1 space. F to zoom in. You're going to try to maximize the texture information. Okay, so that's looking good. For example, if I grab this and maybe I scale it down, you're not going to get that much texture information or similar texture information as everything else, and that's going to be a little bit more complicated to work with. So your goal is to try to make sure that your model actually has similar UVs throughout the whole thing. So undo, and I think it looks pretty good. I need to maybe just scale it down a little. I'm actually going to grab both of these. Let's scale it down a little bit. If I'm happy with this, I can go ahead and export this. I can go ahead and select this as an object mode, polygons, UV snapshot, browse. It's going to be my long crate UV snap, 1024 TIFF. Okay, and now I'm ready to open this up and take a look at it in Photoshop. And now we're in Photoshop, and you can go ahead and start painting your textures. That was a basic understanding of planar mapping. The next one is going to be how to UV map something more complex, something a little bit more organic, which is going to be an arm and a hand. All right, I hope that was helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next time.